Hello, my name is Melanie Jacobson, and I'm going to be going through the details of the Green Building Ordinance in the following slide deck. As you go through, please note down any questions that you might have and let us know how we can help you through this process. In this video, we're going to be going over a brief overview of the Green Building submittal timeline. We're going to provide a demo of the forms and worksheets available and a review of the enforcement procedures that project teams can expect. This slide presents an overview of the residential submittals timeline for the Green Building Ordinance. So you'll notice at the left-hand side, planning entitlement is identified. During this phase, staff is looking for projects to include preliminary green building sheets in the planning application. That sheet is entitled GB1, which stands for Green Building 1. At the bottom, you'll notice the staff enforcement procedures. And if this item is not included in the plan set, the applicant will receive comments during the planning phase of the project. During this phase, staff will be looking for the final green building sheets to be included in the permit plans. Similarly, if items are not included in the permit plans, the applicant will receive plan check comments to that effect. Moving over to green building inspections. Residential projects are required to conduct a green building pre-construction meeting prior to the beginning of construction. There is also a green building incremental verification, as well as a green building final inspection. All the requirements for the green building inspection can be found in the Green Building Inspection Guidelines. This form is the Green Building Verification Form. It outlines the requirements for all residential projects into 3 columns. On the most left-hand column, we have the project conditions, or the project trigger. The next column outlines the green building requirements. And then the third column outlines the compliance schedule and instructions. And we're going to do a demo of this form. Okay, so this is a demo of the Green Building Verification Form. And this is a several-page document. But basically, you're going to make sure that you review all the conditions in the entire document to make sure that the project is meeting all of the requirements and there are no surprises later. So review all the project triggers, and if the project is triggered for that requirement, just notate it for your project team and make sure to include the necessary requirement and comply with the requirements listed in the compliance schedule and instructions. So there are requirements listed for planning phase, permit phase, and inspection phase. This slide provides an overview of the GB1, Green Building 1 sheet that needs to be included in the permit plans. This document is an Excel document to be included as a sheet. And we're going to go over a demo of this sheet right now. This is what the sheet looks like in Excel. And I'm going to zoom in to show you some of the details of the sheet so that you can understand the different components. So if we go all the way over to the left-hand side, the sheet is broken down by the different chapters within the code. So this one happens to be 4.1, Planning and Design. We have the mandatory requirements listed up top as well, and those are identified as mandatory, as well as the Tier 2 mandatory requirements. This sheet happens to be for Tier 2. For Tier 1 projects, this item is identified as Tier 1 mandatory when it's required for those types of projects. This is the provision title. And then the code section we have listed over here. You'll notice that some of these items have numbers and some have letters in front of them. Mandatory code provisions are just a number. Any provision that comes from the appendix has an A in front of it. Now, projects will need to go through the checklist to make sure that they're including all the requirements. But when a requirement is applicable, you simply use the drop-down menu, mark it as an X, and then include your reference in this section here. This section is for staff usage in terms of checking the requirements. So this is just for informational purposes of what will be checked at the various stages of construction. So now I'll just reiterate some of these items so it becomes clear to you about what needs to be included in the permit plans. So the mandatory requirements are identified on the left-hand side as mandatory, or the Tier 2 prerequisites or Tier 2 mandatory requirements from the appendix. The electives are marked also just below for each category, and the minimum number of electives is identified as well within each category. Code section reference is identified again at the top there. When there's a number only, it references the main body of the code. And when there's an A preceding the number, that means it's an elective provision adopted verbatim from the appendix or tiers. And note that there are Tier 1 and Tier 2 mandatory prerequisites, and these are also identified with an A, so just keep that in mind. Local references, meaning that there has been a local amendment or addition, is identified by the ordinance number or Palo Alto Municipal Code. Here is another legend to outline the different items that will be selected for each code provision. Y stands for yes, the provision applies, and N stands for not applicable or not triggered. The plan sheet, spec, or attachment reference is listed in this column. And again, these are for reference only so that you understand the items that will be inspected at each phase. This page provides the link to the green building page on the City of Palo Alto Development Services webpage. And the compliance page outlines all of these requirements we're going over today in additional detail for the requirements that are required at each phase. This slide outlines the resources for applicants in the City of Palo Alto, and the resources outline both state resources and local resources. And I'll highlight that we do have green building counter hours for drop-in questions and code interpretations and general assistance. This slide shows the standard green building conditions that are associated with plan check. The plan checkers use this tool as the enforcement protocol, and this tool is made public available on the green building webpage so that project teams can adequately plan for incorporation of the required standard conditions. So I highly encourage you to check out this document, and if there are any questions based on your project, just let us know. This slide provides an overview of the plan check procedures for projects subject to Cal Green mandatory only with no tier requirements. The project applicant will need to include the GB1 sheet for Cal Green mandatory and complete the requirements in accordance with the green building standard conditions, as explained on the website. Include a copy of the GB1 sheet in the permit plans. The plan checker will be reviewing the GB1 in accordance with the green building standard conditions. This slide provides an overview of the plan check procedures for projects subject to Cal Green mandatory plus Tier 1 or Tier 2. So you'll need to include the green building sheets using the standard green building conditions. The special inspector, their role is to provide third-party verification that the correct provisions are selected, the permit plan elements are included, all in accordance with the green building standard conditions. And then the plan checker will review the green building sheets within the plan check process using the standard green building conditions. This document is the Green Building Inspection Residential Guideline. So this guideline includes requirements for the beginning of construction all the way through the end and occupancy. And I'll highlight the inspection codes are IVR 111, 112, and 974. Thank you so much for listening to this video, and please let us know if you have any questions.